Doc Rivers said yesterday he has already agreed to a multi-year extension with the Clippers. Well played, Doc.
Yeah.
What did you make of this,
Doc
Nick?
Rivers with the king of the finesse. He had a 2-year extension that evidently, this was what hadn't been reported. He had an opt-out in it. So he could have left this summer. This news comes out that, hey, he might be thinking of leaving. Now he doesn't have a 2-year extension. He has a multi-year extension that they announced and agreed to yesterday. So Doc Rivers staying with the Clippers. Huge for the Clippers and their summer free agency plans. And a great job by Doc and his representation getting this in the way
Well, this
they
had
did.
already been worked on. I had someone call me as soon as we got off the show, a source of the NBA, and told me, man, Doc's already got an extension that they haven't made public yet. He hadn't signed it yet. There's no way he's going to the Lakers. And then the news came out later on. So Doc is happy doing exactly what he's doing and where he's doing it at. So that's why I tell you guys in the morning when I come in, oh man, we got a source. Really? Do we have a source?
But this source was right. See, he hadn't signed his extension and he had an opt-out. It wasn't until yesterday that they officially signed the new deal. I mean, that is true. Like, that is, they were working on it, but they hadn't signed the new deal.
The reality of Doc Rivers ever coaching the Lakers was not true. All right, it was a rumor because Doc was already working on an extension. Now he had an out that people said, oh, if he had an out, well, maybe he'll go right downstairs and transfer to the Lakers. But as my source said, this was a deal that they had already agreed upon previously. It just hadn't been signed yet.
Here, we're going to win another championship. It's just that simple. Nothing else matters. All right, see, Nick, what was your reaction to Draymond's comments?
I mean, this isn't, it's not shocking. He could have said, obviously, we want to keep him. He could have said all things about the championship.
It's a very elaborate way of sort of saying that.
If he dies, he dies. The Drago line, right? If he goes, he goes. If he stays, he stays. Draymond, though, there are layers to this. Because, yes, they're focused on winning a championship. Yes, for 2 years now. As David West alluded to and has been reported, members of the Warriors have been annoyed by Kevin Durant's pending free agency and Kevin Durant's wandering eye being a distraction at different parts of the last 2 seasons from their quest to last year repeat and this year three-peat. But the other angle for Draymond is a financial one, which is the Warriors are the only team that could consider giving Draymond Green a maximum contract. And if Kevin Durant stays, they're not going to give him a maximum contract. They're not going to want to pay that luxury tax, and they're not going to desperately need him the way if Kevin Durant leaves. So for Draymond, it's layered. Yes, we're focused on this year. Yes, he and I had our issue. And yes, for me personally, because I know they believe they can win even without him, it might not be the worst thing ever if Kevin Durant leaves and that money is freed up for me. So Draymond, it's about this year, it's about the annoyance, and it's about the long-term money. That's why he'd say, if he goes, and seems so nonchalant about it.
Yeah, what else is he supposed to say? I mean, if Kevin Durant, if everything is true, and Draymond knows it, Draymond's right there. What's he supposed to say? Oh, man, the guy, he might stay. Like, no. Draymond knows if he goes, he goes. It's not going to matter. We've seen Golden State. KD's back with them, but we saw him without KD. They still pretty special. This is what I'll predict. If KD leaves Golden State's still going to be the favorite next year to win the championship. So that's not about money. It's just about pure talent that they have there. And I'm sure if Draymond is a human being like the rest of us, it would be better if one guy left. But also, I think Draymond, he's smart enough to know if KD was to re-up for a couple more years, they might be able to win 5 championships. And that's pretty special, too. So it's a lot to build to think about and to build to manage. But when you think a guy's gone, what else are you supposed to say?
Right.
I mean, you don't think he's going to stay. I don't. Draymond's in a tough spot trying to answer these questions coming down the stretch because the focus should be just trying to win a championship.
Nick, how much of KD's decision do you think will be because of Draymond Green?
Well, I think it's a part of it. I think how happy you are at work with the people you work with, of course, plays into whether or not you want to change where you work. I think a bigger part of the decision will be what the Warriors do this postseason. If they get knocked out, if they don't three-peat, I don't see a scenario where Kevin Durant stays. I think Kevin Durant, and people around the league think Kevin Durant has not made up his mind, but has all but made up his mind that he's coming to New York. He's setting up his businesses off the court in New York. Rich Kleiman's doing office space in New York.
The only decision being whether they win a championship or not.
Well, even if they win the championship, I think he's leaving. But the point Chris Broussard makes, which is if you win the title, nobody's won 4 in a row since who? Russell Celtics. Like, you could, if you're finals MVP and you win 3 of them, do you want to go for 4 there? Play 1 year at the new arena in San Francisco. Like, could that sway him at the last minute? But if they get knocked out, whether it's by the Rockets or in the NBA Finals, then a decision that I think is all but made up becomes officially made up.
Yeah, I don't think Draymond plays any role in KD's decision to leave, because most of the rumors that we heard about KD were before the season. And KD signed his contract before they had the conversation where Draymond told him on the bench, you can leave. There hadn't been anything come out of the locker room as far as Draymond and KD. There is a certain part to Draymond on a sports team that you need. KD is not an edgy guy. Steph's not an edgy guy. Clay's not an edgy guy. You need a guy who has a motor like Draymond. And let's not, because I know we have all this shooting talent, but man, one of the secret sauces is Draymond and his intensity. Draymond makes them play defense too. Draymond sacrificed a lot of his game so they can play the way they want to. So for me, I think that we are, I would be hard pressed to prove Kevin Durant, one of the reasons why he's leaving is Draymond. I believe he already had his mind made up. Those business concepts, those partnerships, those things are beyond some type of teammate.
All right, let's stay in the NBA. The league that belongs to LeBron may soon belong to Giannis. Giannis on the cusp of possibly winning his first MVP and maybe supplanting LeBron as the best player in the world, which sounds nuts to the Greek freak himself, who said recently he never saw himself as, quote, being that LeBron type of player. See, is Giannis in line to replace LeBron as the best player in the NBA?
I mean, I don't know if he's in line to replace him. This playoffs, what we do in this playoffs. And I just still believe that Kevin Durant and Steph Curry going to have something to say about this. Like, all of a sudden, we have this conversation. Who's going to be the image of the league going forward? Like, we don't include Steph in KD. Man, KD goes to New York. Man, they get a little Kyrie. Man, they get the excitement back in the Garden. Oh, KD going to be up for the conversation because he could be going for 30 a night the way Harden has been doing. And we know Steph is going to be part of the conversation. He's adorable. He's got the type of game, man, that people love. He's got that look. Man, he is the face of that franchise. Multiple championships. He's going to be in the running. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Giannis is the next heir apparent to what LeBron has been to the NBA.
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, even though this is the guy that I've been pegging as the next best player in the league for a few years. I think next year's going to be so intriguing in this regard, because C's point that if LeBron's not in the playoffs to defend his title, someone's going to, at the end of these playoffs, at least temporarily take it. And then assuming KD leaves, to me, there's 5 guys next year that will be in the running for it. LeBron will be in the running to take it back. Giannis, who you mentioned, KD on his own team, Steph on his own team, and James Harden. James Harden, it might never be the face of the league, but when we're talking about the best player, what Harden does in this postseason and what the Rockets do if they continue this another year next year, those 5 guys, it'll be one of those 5, and it'll be up for grabs. Like, Steph is the one that I think does get overlooked in this, because Steph was the closest to taking it from LeBron that anyone has been in this decade. Like, if they had finished that series when they were up 3-1 and he was unanimous MVP and back-to-back MVP, and LeBron didn't have that 3-game stretch at the end of those finals, Steph would have taken it. And then Kevin Durant maybe doesn't go there. Maybe it's just Steph's award moving forward, or unofficial title moving forward. But so Giannis is certainly, I think, the best bet, but he's not the only bet. There's 4 other guys that can do it.
I think the person that's not on the radar that no one's talking about because we've forgotten, that's Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, to me, is a better defensive player than Giannis, a better rim protector, and he is a better offensive player. Imagine if AD goes to Los Angeles with LeBron. Him playing with the best player he's ever played with. You're going to have to put him in the conversation. I know you brought LeBron. To me, that we're missing AD, because let's not forget what his game is like. Can shoot the 3, got the mid-range, got a post game, can get out on the break. We know he can defend. He can defend all 5 positions. He's no liability. He's a rim protector. Let's not forget Anthony Davis and his overall talent. I know he demanded a trade, so sometimes, a lot of times, Paul George, you fall out of graces with people. But let's not forget the talent that we saw. And if he is partnered with LeBron James, I believe he's going to be part of that conversation.
And Anthony Davis is in the same weak spot this year that LeBron's in, which is, at least for this season, you're not eligible for this if you can't get your team to the playoffs. And even if before they were resting him and on minutes restriction, the reason he demanded a trade when he did was the team was not positioned to make the playoffs. So to bring it full circle back to Giannis, I think people are, because they're in Milwaukee and people aren't watching, I don't know if people realize what Giannis at age 24 is doing. Here's Giannis's age 24 season against somebody else's, and I think it'll surprise you. So Giannis has him clipped in everything. Barely in points, barely in rebounds, by a lot in assists, and barely in field goal percentage. Both age 24 season. Who's the other guy? If we can show it, please. That's Shaq's first year with the Lakers. Giannis, because he's not a center and because he's not a low post guy, we send 13 rebounds a game is insane. To go along with 6 assists a game is almost unheard of. You mentioned that you think Anthony Davis is a better defender than Giannis. That's arguable, but it's not because Giannis isn't a great defender. It's because Anthony Davis at his peak has the argument he's Defensive Player of the Year caliber defender. Right now, Giannis, his only weakness is outside shooting, and it's not preventing him from scoring. And his progression, every year in his career, he's increased points, rebounds, and field goal percentage. Every single year, each of those categories. And so you're seeing him get better, and now you're seeing the team's success.
You mentioned him being in Milwaukee sometimes hides him from others that aren't watching. If you put a guy like Giannis on one of the coasts in LA or in New York, how big of a star could he be?
I don't think it's always that way. People always think, well, man, you go to a bigger city. Giannis is not meant for the big city. He's not from the United States. New York, LA, it don't matter. He wants to be in Milwaukee. I don't think because of his arc and where he came from and because of inability to shoot that he would be any more popular than he is right now. I think that he's been able to develop. LeBron going to the West helped him out. But right now, I believe that it's the right timing. But he wasn't a player Steph was. He wasn't a player Harden was. He wasn't those players. He has developed into the player that he is now. I don't think that it makes that much of a difference, especially with someone who was not born and raised in the United States. Their arc to success is totally different than guys we have seen through the prep ranks, AAU, and then even those who potentially go to college for a year or two.
I don't think it matters where he plays nearly as much as it matters when he plays. And by that I mean what Giannis needs is a deep playoff run. And what Giannis needs is to be center stage national television, only game of the night on for 6 weeks. That's what any of these guys need. That's what any of these guys.
And he needs to be able to put up playoff type numbers in that. Last year in the playoffs, he wasn't in the conversation of best players in the world because there were parts in the game he disappeared. Now, this year he came back. Man, he increased his jump shot, the range on his jump shot, how he can get to the hole, really worked on his dribbling ability. So now what he can do, but in the playoffs, that's going to be determined Giannis's arc.
Yeah, how many rounds can the Bucks get to? Like, they have to get to at least the Eastern Conference Finals for him to continue this discussion. They make the NBA Finals. I think he's probably the guy people are saying, is he the best player in the world? And if they win the championship and they're going to have the #1 seed in all of basketball, then it won't even be a discussion. People go into next season with people considering him the best player in the league. But no matter what happens, those 5 guys, Chris would include Anthony Davis as 6, are all going to be, it's going to be like the old WWE ladder match where whatever, I don't even remember what it's called, where the belt's hanging above the ring, like somebody's going to climb up and grab it.
He is in phenomenal shape. I will just say that.
Oh, Giannis is put on. One of the reasons is rebounding. Yeah, he's gotten so much stronger.
All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, are the Cardinals a lock to take Kyler Murray? That's ahead on First Things First.
Are you locked in on Giannis and his body? You think Giannis, you like